the New England Patriots don't have an offensive coordinator. And I thought this was very interesting that they're going to have Matt Patricia and Joe Judge basically be their offensive coordinators, where I think they're both splitting plays. And Patricia is a defensive coordinator, a former defensive coordinator, and Joe Judge is a former special teams coordinator. They both tried to be head coaches in the league and ultimately failed. What are your thoughts on the Patriots, having two non-offensive coordinators call their plays on offense?
Absolute disaster. I can't see this going any other way. I think this is going to be a dumpster fire. Losing a guy like Josh McDaniels was massive. I don't think people realize how important of a role he had on this team. One of the best offensive coordinators in the NFL. Now you're going to bring in, like you said, a former defensive coordinator and a former special teams coach to call and design the offense for a young quarterback in his second year, no less. Now, Belichick is a guy who's known for cross-training his assistants, so to speak, to learn both sides of the ball. I get that. He's got a coaching staff that they do it a little bit differently than most other staffs. But this still feels like a big reach. I'm not high on the New England Patriots this year, and this is the number one reason why. Now, they lost some key players. They also had a pretty iffy draft as well, so I don't think they're bringing in a lot of talent. But this storyline is mind-blowing to me. I really don't see how this is going to work. Like you said, two guys that failed miserably as head coaches, have really no experience in calling plays, designing plays. I can't see this going well. I'd be shocked. Bill Belichick, we know he's the greatest of all time. Maybe he makes us all look stupid here, but I have a hard time thinking that this doesn't go sideways for New England.
Well, I mean, there's reports all over, Twitter and just all over the NFL world where Mac Jones is struggling. He doesn't feel comfortable. And it's because he doesn't have an offensive minded coach. I mean, I thought it was a dumb idea too, because both Patricia and Joe Judge, I didn't think Patricia was that good of a defensive coordinator, because I think when he was D coordinator, I think, Belichick was calling the plays, right? Or calling the defensive plays. And Joe Judge, he's a special teams guy. So, I mean, I just don't understand it either. I mean, I could see Mac Jones struggling a lot this year. Do you think Mac Jones will struggle as well, or?
Well, he surprised me last year. I think he surprised a lot of us. I wasn't very high on him coming out of the draft, and he came out and played really well and had a really nice rookie season and really showed New England fans that maybe they've got a guy who could be a franchise quarterback. It's hard to think that this isn't going to derail that progress, though, because I'm with you. When you're mixing things up, especially for a young quarterback, this is going to be really tough. It's tough when a young quarterback has to change offensive coordinators in year two, even when you bring in an experienced offensive coordinator. But now you're bringing in two guys that have never done it, and they're kind of learning on the job as well. It just, nothing about this feels right. Nothing about it sounds right. I think it's going to be a rocky year for New England. I think this is a year where they're really going to come down to earth.
And yeah, you're talking about the AFC East. I think we all know it's the Bills division, right? But the Dolphins got much better this year. I could see the Patriots getting third and completely missing the playoffs, just because, it depends how much, because I think that the Patriots are going to be a defensive team. They, for the most part, have been a defensive team under Belichick, but I've got a feeling that they might be the third best team and might not have another winning record. I could see them easily only winning 7 or 8 games this year. And I don't exactly know their schedule, but I think their schedule is a little tougher since they did make the playoffs last year. So we'll see what happens. Thanks for listening to the Sports Town Podcast, or the STP Pod for short. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and much more. Also, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Sports Town Podcast. If you want to check out more videos of the Sports Town Podcast, click on the right.